Hi, everybody. Welcome to Life Stories. I'm so glad that you're here. Today on the podcast, I speak with Julia DeNey, who started a company called Sense-ational You. Julia took her skills as a fashion designer and her experience in working with kids with autism to create clothing for kids with sensory processing needs. It's an incredible company, and she is doing wonderful things with it.
It's the word of the
Our word
week.
of the week is celebrate. Julia gave some examples about how parents are celebrating these little milestones for their kids who, because of Julia's clothing, can now do things like finish lunch in the cafeteria at school. I know that sounds like a little thing to some people, but for a parent whose child has so many sensory issues, that's a big deal. I loved over the years being able to celebrate things with my son, who is now grown, but I still celebrate. I celebrate when he meets these milestones that maybe my other kids met many years ago. I don't care. I celebrate them. If you have a child with special needs, I hope that you are celebrating every milestone that they meet, every new thing that they tell you, every new question that they ask, or little accomplishment. It's not little, it's wonderful, and it's worth celebrating. I hope if you know someone who could benefit from these clothes, that you will send them this video because I think I want as many people as possible to hear about this company. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Hi,
Hello.
how are you?
Good. It's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. I'm so excited I get to talk to you. This is a special subject for me because, like I told you, I have a son with autism and he's grown, but this is near and dear to my heart. So
That's
I
awesome.
love what you are doing.
Yeah.
I am definitely interested in how you came up with the idea to start this clothing company for kids with sensory issues. That's so smart. Like, why did somebody not do this a long time ago?
Yeah, it really grew out of the fact that someone hadn't done it. So I
Yeah.
never really saw myself starting a company, but I was majoring in fashion design at Cornell, and I was very separately with my sorority volunteering with a local autism preschool and resource center. And they brought up a lot of the clothing challenges their students and kids face to me. So I thought it was going to be a paper or like a project I'd work on for a semester to hand them over the resources, find the small
Sure.
businesses that were doing it or find the places to shop. And it became really challenging to even write the paper. It almost became a first outline of my business plan because I wrote what should
Wow.
hypothetically exist because there was a lot of people saying it was a problem, but not a lot of solutions.
Yeah.
So that's really where it all started. And at the time, I really didn't even think it would turn into a full business. I thought it would be a cool add to my portfolio and something I could bring as like a value add to another company when I graduated. But I graduated in 2020, so the fashion industry was really shut down. And I
Yeah.
went to work in special education, right, with autistic students in autism classrooms and saw kind of how widespread it was needed and began the journey of actually turning it into a brand.
It is amazing to me. I love the connection of you being a fashion designer and being able to work with those kids. That's just amazing. So for somebody that doesn't know or is not familiar with what would how would you explain a sensory processing disorder? Why is it an issue for some kids with clothing, with tags and with different things? Why is it an issue for kids? Why do you have your company? Why is it needed?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for just understanding how someone could perceive kind of our world and the sensory input of our world differently, I
Yeah.
always love using the example of the last time you were at like a rock concert with like pounding music, flashing lights, and trying to learn a new physics problem there. And that's really what a
Yeah.
classroom can feel like, in crowded schools and fluorescent lighting. And that just, gives you that kind of perception of like how things can seem really different. To you,
Right.
it's just a classroom and there shouldn't be a problem with that. But to them, it can feel how you feel at a rock concert and like how much
Yeah.
learning are you going to get done there. But I think
Exactly.
specifically for clothing, it's realizing taking that idea that, hey, just because you don't feel it doesn't mean someone else isn't. And kind of having that idea that, the tag in the back of the shirt, everyone's had one that sort of annoys them or you
Right.
feel it, but it can actually feel really painful.
Yeah.
Some autistic adults or teens that have, and even children who have been able to articulate it, is that it feels like they're being cut. Like it really does
Mm.
feel like you're being hurt and like it's truly painful. And
Yeah.
it's not something that's, just a little annoying and they can be taught to get over because they are perceiving it very differently and their bodies are
Yeah.
taking in that information very differently than yours might be.
Yeah. So what kind of clothes do you make?
Yeah, so all of our clothes, on that note of tags, all of our clothes are made with no tags. So it's all printed labels, soft knit fabrics, and all of the seams are flat. And
Mhm.
so therefore there's nothing like bulky on the inside that's like rubbing against you, because it kind of has that same feel for a lot of kids, as the tags, something rubbing against you that feels very painful and uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
that's baseline where we started with all our clothes. And then I really wanted to create some more styles that went beyond that to help not just be comfortable, but also help these other, sensory experiences and help them be included in certain environments like the classrooms that feel really overwhelming with the bright
Right.
lights and loud noises. So we have styles that have sensory tools integrated in. So we have a hoodie that has sound reducing material in the ears and an eye mask that can pull down so they can have a sensory break wherever they are. We have a t-shirt that has a built-in compression lining. So it works a lot like a
Wow.
compression vest, or a similar input to a weighted vest if people are more familiar with that, very calming. And we built it right into the t-shirt because that way, you don't have to remember to carry around this separate vest all the time. You don't have to wrestle them into a vest when they're already having a hard time. But also, it's like discreet, it's under their
Yeah.
clothing. So they're not wearing something over the top that as they get older, they decide maybe, even though this helps me, I don't want to wear it because I don't want
Right.
the peers' comments on it.
Right.
So it's something built in underneath that makes it easier, more comfortable, and a lot more discreet.
I love that. I love that. And I really don't know why this hasn't been done before. I mean, it makes so much sense. What is your goal for your company? I know you can get things online. I was
Yep.
checking out all your stuff you can buy online. What is the goal for your company? What would you like to see happen?
Yeah, my goal is to greatly expand our styles and also the sensory needs we're meeting. So even just beyond the sound and just the sensory friendly and just the compression, there's so many other things from chewing to,
Yeah.
fidgets, like all these areas that we can dive into. And my goal would be that, you're able to sign on to our site, filter by your sensory needs or your child's sensory needs, and then you can just shop for clothing like you
Sure.
would anywhere else. Shop for the style, shop for the season, shop for the color they love, and it be a lot more seamless. So you're not having to simultaneously shop for clothes they like, but also be trying to read through details and figure out if it's something they'll
Right.
like or if it's something that'll help them. So the
Yeah.
goal is just to have somewhere, once you filter it, everything that pops up is something that will meet their needs in that way. And then they can shop for styles the way, anyone else can. If I walk into the loft,
Right.
you're just looking for
Right.
style.
Yeah, that's great. How have you seen your clothes help? Like, have you heard a lot of testimonials from families and people?
Yeah, they're my favorite part. As someone
Yeah.
who never thought I'd start a business and is doing it alone, it's honestly really hard. And there are a lot of days where
Yes.
you're like, what am I doing? Can I do this? Is this been helping? So getting customer stories is the thing that is really the whole reason I'm doing it and the whole reason that I keep going. And there's so many great ones. And even if they're short or little videos that are shared, but I love, like, I had a customer who reached out and said her son was able to successfully eat his lunch in the cafeteria for the first
Oh,
time because of our sound reducing hoodie and just those little things. Parents that reach out, they were able to make a smoothie in the morning because the blender wasn't as
yeah.
annoying of a noise for their child. And a lot of those things where it's just those daily things that
Yeah.
a lot of parents don't think about or don't have to. If you just send
Mm,
your kid to school and they're good, they're eating lunch in the cafeteria with their
right.
friend, it's just that's part of their day. But when your child has sensory needs, there's these added layers to your days and little considerations. And I think being able to create something where it's made a big enough impact that people want to reach out and share just like a thank you, it had this impact,
Yeah.
is huge.
It is. And I can say as a parent, those little things are really big things because
Yeah.
still my son is in his late 20s and we still celebrate things that he does or says, if he says something new, tells us something new or brings up something in a conversation that he never has, like we still get excited. So those
Oh,
little things
totally.
are very big things to parents. So
Yeah.
I love that. I know that it's making such a huge impact. So you said your favorite thing was hearing from the families. Do you have a moment or an event or anything that happened that really stands out to you so far?
Yeah, there was one really early on that I love sharing because I think it was such a crucial moment for me in really deciding that this was something I could do. It was so soon after we had launched, like a couple weeks into launching, if that. And I was still teaching full time in special education. So it was really hard trying to grow this company, seeing if I could
Sure.
run a company, and you're teaching full time
Yeah.
with the students. So you don't have a lot of your work day. And you just kind of have these moments, as I think any entrepreneur does, where you go through these waves of like doubt and then like waves of motivation and lows. And it's
Yeah.
very tumultuous. But I think I was kind of at a down where I was like, okay, it wasn't something where, if you create the product, people come, which is, I think, like an
Right.
early thing I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs about. You think, hey, this doesn't exist. It's super needed. So if I just create it,
Yeah.
everyone will just start shopping and it'll be successful. And that's like a hard realization shortly after launching that, okay, wait,
Right.
we actually have to go out and educate
Yeah.
people and find people.
Yeah.
And I was just in one of those low moments of, okay, so how am I going to tackle this? Can this work? And a mom reached out just out of like, I can't believe you exist. This has made my whole day. This is what I was looking for. Because her son was really struggling at school and particularly in the hallways transitioning through classes,
Hmm.
but didn't love the feeling of headphones and like didn't love the peer. I think more, it was more so the peer conversation around
Right.
him wearing them. He was getting to kind of an older age where that really bothered him. So he didn't want to wear them. And at the time, our sound reducing hoodie was only made in this constellation print that we'll actually have back in stock coming for this fall because it was so popular. But she reached out and it was the only color available. And she was like, I can't believe it. This is exactly what he needs. And he was so excited to find it, especially because it was constellation print, because his
Oh.
special interest was space.
Oh,
So it was just
wow.
this very serendipitous,
That's
like it
awesome.
just launched and she was just looking
Yeah.
for a solution and
Oh
happened to
my
find us. And then
goodness.
the exact product was in a print that he was excited about because it
Yeah.
was his special interest. And so it all just came together and I was like, this is why
That's
I need to do this. Like
yes.
that's really cool.
I love that. That is so neat. So do you have a lot of people working for you? Like, are you actually sewing? Are you um
No, yeah. So I'm not
no.
sewing it. So everything else in the company I do, like I'm a solo entrepreneur. I have
Right.
some kind of like hired out tasks that I do, but they're not
Yeah.
full-time employees of the company. But you have
Right.
people like come in and help when you
Yes.
I can't do it all.
Right.
But overall, I'm the only employee, but I no longer sew them. So in college,
Okay.
when I was majoring in fashion design and doing this as a study, I did all the sewing we had a full studio with like all the machines you could possibly
Wow.
need and
Yeah.
all that. So I made all the initial prototypes. But when I went to then go turn it into a business, I was kind of looking at, do I buy these machines and keep sewing them by myself for a while? Or
Right.
at what point do you get them manufactured? But I realized that the cost of the machines almost became as expensive as a production run. And at that
Wow.
point, I would then still have to sew everything. So it made more sense to just
Yeah.
initially launch with the manufacturing. So
Yeah.
that has definitely been life saving because I can't imagine now also sewing all the
No.
orders that come in. But that was a good decision at the time. But yeah, so
Yeah.
they're manufactured and then I store them. And so right now, like I still fulfill all the orders, which I kind of love. I mean, there's definitely going to be a point where it's too hard to do and it takes
Yeah.
up a good portion of the day, but I love it because it becomes very personal if a customer reaches out and needs to make an exchange or accidentally put in their order wrong or whatever it is. Like I'm able to like package that for them, or if they reach out that it needs to get
Right.
on a specific date because it's their birthday, like I love adding a little extra thing into the package and going to the post office and making sure it gets there. And so it
Yeah.
feels very personal right now, which I love.
Yes.
So pretty much the only job I don't do is the actual making of the clothes now.
Oh, okay. That's yeah, that's I hope you're so big that you just, you got people to do it all because you're just
Yeah,
growing so
exactly.
much. I just think about the schools and how helpful this will be to these kids in the schools. I just think about there's just people don't realize unless you're a parent, unless you've worked with, kids with special needs, you don't know. You don't realize how many things affect them when they're there. So
Yeah,
I love it. I just love what you're doing. Was there
thanks.
anything I haven't asked you? You've kind of answered all my questions already.
Oh, good. No, I mean, that's definitely the overview of the brand. But yeah, I would definitely say the schools are super important. And I'm so glad that I did end up teaching while,
Yeah.
kind of deciding on what products we were going to launch with. And through the initial year, almost 2 years, I taught while launching the company. And I think it was really cool to see kind of the direct impact the designs could have in the classroom
Yeah.
and kind of see which students they really worked for and in what settings. And I really got to see that hands on rather than creating something and relying just on customer feedback. It's something I
Yeah.
can now say, really does have an impact on the classrooms and see firsthand how dysregulating school really is. And it's a different environment. And I worked with the kids who it was their first time ever in school often. So I worked with like
Right.
3 and 4 year olds coming into school, and you could see immediately like walking into the building, like the head down, eye closed, and I'd like guide them to our classroom. Like you
Yeah.
saw that like immediate change for them. And it was a new environment. And I think that's where it becomes even harder sometimes. It's a new environment they're not prepared for. The parents aren't even sure. And I think that happens, a lot outside of school too, like at different birthday
Sure.
parties or family events or, going anywhere new. And
Yeah.
seeing that in school and being able to see that firsthand really shaped the company and how I wanted to design the clothes and what I wanted to launch with that could potentially help the most kids right now, just picking a
Oh,
few
yeah.
designs to start with. So that was huge to me and I think made all the
Mhm.
difference, because I think otherwise it's so hard to serve a group that you don't really know intimately or have seen.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was extremely helpful, I'm sure, to be able to do that. Do you ever go back into the schools to talk to people?
Yeah, so this was my first year not teaching. So this
Okay.
past school year was my first year that I finally was like, okay, I can't pretend I can grow a company and teach full time, especially with my autistic students who, like I couldn't look away from, or they'd run out of the
Right.
classroom, down the hall, on the street. So
Yeah.
I wasn't answering emails through the day. So it just became too unsustainable, but I really missed them. So I
Yeah.
signed up to be a sub for my department. So I got to go
Oh,
back
that's
and like see all
good.
my old coworkers and sub for my old
Yeah.
students whenever they needed an extra hand, which made a big difference. And then I
Sure.
started babysitting a lot more because that was easier to do outside
Yeah.
of work hours, do it at night.
Yeah.
So, and that's been great because I love being able to, help babysit for a family that has an autistic child that otherwise really struggles to find childcare. And so that's
Yes.
been a cool way to also stay connected and get really personalized, almost like
Yeah.
customer feedback too, and you
It
really get to know
it
the kid and the
is.
parent and like ask them like, so what do you struggle with? Like, oh, can
Right.
we try this? So that was cool because it was a lot more personal.
That's awesome. That's like gold to a parent who, you want to be able to get out a little bit and you can't because you
Yeah.
you don't you don't know if your kid's going to be okay. You don't trust everybody. That's been the biggest
Right.
issue for me is, I just don't trust people.
And I
Oh,
totally get that for
well,
sure. Like
I can't help
not
it.
knowing who you can trust and
Yeah.
making sure that they're cared for and good, especially if you're
Yeah.
not sure if they can fully communicate to you if
Right.
something doesn't go well or if they're uncomfortable about anything. Those are kind of
Right.
complex things to communicate too. So
Yeah.
it totally makes sense when parents are, hesitant, or it's hard for them to find someone that they trust to
Yeah.
help out.
So what you're doing is amazing. That's a huge help to families. Well, I am so excited to talk to you. I hope your company does extremely well. And I'm sharing this with
Thank
all of,
you.
well, I'm sharing it with everybody, but definitely the people that I know that could benefit from this because I think it's
Yeah,
just
I appreciate it.
very helpful. So, well, I wish you well, and I'm following you on Facebook, and so I can keep track of all your
Awesome.
new events and things that are going on. So,
Yeah, yeah, we're on all the things. We're on Facebook, Instagram,
yes,
TikTok, and then our website is sensoryclothes.com. It's the
okay,
easiest way to do it
yeah,
over the podcast, but it's also
yes,
shopsensationalyou.com. So
okay,
all of
yeah.
it's there.
I appreciate you so much taking the time to talk to me.
Oh my gosh, I so appreciate it. This was so fun.
Good deal. Well, I hope you have a wonderful day.
Yes, you too.
All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Bye.